Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Emanuel Darmanin. I'm the head of strategy and business for MITA. I will be organizing my presentation into three parts. First of all, I will be talking about what government of Malta is doing in terms of the digitalization of public administration. Secondly, I will talk a little bit about MITA, the agency that I work for. And thirdly, how MITA is helping government in the digitalization process. So in 2014, Malta launched its national strategy for a digital economy. And even there, one of the main pillars of this strategy is the digital government for Malta to become a digital-enabled nation in all sectors of society. And then earlier this year, we launched the strategy for the public administration. It's called Mapping Tomorrow and sets a vision for the public administration to be empowered by digital transformation. This strategy has three major goals. First of all, take up, which really was the primary objective of the previous strategy, which was focusing on 24/7 public services, but will continue in the strategy as well. The second key goal is once only, which is the main objective of this current strategy. And the third one is service of excellence, which will be start in this period of strategy, but will be also continued in the forthcoming strategy. So the strategy sets a number of principles, some of them which are digital principles, some others are not, but are critical for Malta to achieve the digital transformation. And in terms of digital specific principles, we're talking about client centricity, one government sharing and end-to-end services, and business process reengineering. Of course, we will not be able to achieve the best and use of digital technologies unless the processes are re-engineered. In fact, only recently, the head of the public administration in Malta stated that government will be setting up a digital transformation hub whereby the service design, the public service design will be going on through, of course, the use of digitization. Not only that, the strategy is specifically stating that there needs to be the use of emerging technologies, especially artificial intelligence, to make these services more achievable in terms of the goals that we have. And the Principal Permanent Secretary also stated that he doesn't want to follow, but to lead, actually, that the public administration would be a leader in this regard. The Mapping Tomorrow has four primary pillars. First of all, client-centric public administration. We've talked about that. We know Malta position in terms of e-government, so I will not talk about it. Sector-specific applications. Of course, there needs to be the upgrade of the applications relating to particular business areas, whether it's healthcare, transportation, education, taxation, social policy, whatever. Okay. Of course, a number of internal systems. We are currently implementing an accrual accounting system. We're currently working with Microsoft to implement the modern workplace to ensure better exchange of information and collaboration between public officers and various other systems. And the fourth aspect is technological platforms and solutions, something which I will be delving in a little bit later in the presentation. Recently as well, in October, Malta launched its national AI strategy. And as one can see from the model being adopted for this strategy, public sector adoption of AI is central to this strategy, which means that basically at a national level, at a government level, and even at particular areas of application level, the strategic perspectives are in sync. The strategy has a section specifically relating to the public administration to create an AI-powered public administration. We're also looking into implementing a number of AI pilot projects that will be later be extended both horizontally to apply for other areas and also vertically in terms of achieving more within the particular areas. And the idea of these projects are, of course, to provide better service to citizens and businesses, to improve the economic and social well-being of our citizens and businesses, and to improve internal operations of the public administration. We're also taking a policy that whenever government departments procure information systems or systems that have an element of digitization in them, they need to adopt, at least consider the adoption of emerging technologies, particularly AI, and also to consider the use of the hybrid cloud, as I will be talking about later on. These are the 6 pilot projects that we are currently implementing. I will not go into them because of time limitations, but they are in the area of customer care. Just briefly, Malta set up a service.gov, it's called. It's a one-stop shop for the whole of government. And basically, what is going to be done is that the messages and emails that are received by the service.gov will be analyzed, and the AI project will come up with responses for the agents to consider. Of course, until the agents build the confidence in the AI, they will may review these responses, but eventually, over time, I'm sure they will build the confidence. And various other areas that, as I said, I will not go into explaining. So that's the first part. What Maltese government is doing in terms of digitalization of public administration. The second part, MITA. What is MITA? MITA is the IT agency for the government of Malta. We're owned 100% by government, and we provide service only to government. Our current strategy says that we want to be the digital driver for the transformation of government. And what our current strategy says, we took a snapshot when we started in the strategy, and at the end of the strategy being 2020. And we defined a number of what we call desired states. So where we want to be by the end of 2020. And one important area is, of course, to help government in digitalizing its information systems. The objective of MITA is primarily, can be summarized into 4. First of all, we are the digital driver in terms of setting policies and strategies within government. In fact, the strategies that I have mentioned and other strategies, MITA has either been the key driver or a key contributor for these strategies. We deliver and manage information systems within government. So in the past, we used to manage practically all information systems within government. But over the past years, we have been delegating some responsibilities to the Office of CIOs, Ministry CIOs, which we have strengthened. And the third area is providing infrastructure and platforms. I will talk about this later on. And the last aspect is in encouraging the take-up of ICTs by different audiences, whether it's students, whether it's public officers, MITA personnel, the general public, etc. Okay, so that is the second part, what MITA is. The third part now, how MITA is helping government in the transformation process. One area is the implementation of hybrid cloud, and this is the area I will be focusing on in this part of my presentation. We are also implementing various shared platforms relating to workflow, collaboration, e-government platforms. I won't have the time to go into that. IC infrastructure, we operate as Security Operations Center, Network Operations Center, government network, etc. And of course, security. I will be talking briefly about this later. So, the MITA hybrid cloud. The MITA hybrid cloud is implemented using 2 main parts, what we call an on-premise part and what is the off-premise part. The 2 parts of the cloud, that's why it's a hybrid cloud, are similar, with the main differences being that the on-premise cloud, we provide a hyper-converged infrastructure whereby we provide computing, storage, facilities from the data centers that are housed at MITA. On the other hand, in terms of the off-premise cloud, such facilities are provided through the Microsoft Azure cloud, which are in 2 major data centers in Netherlands and Ireland. That's one main area of difference. There are various other services that are provided on both, but of course, one can imagine that the latest technologies relating to IoT, AI, APIs, and others are immediately available on the cloud, on the Azure cloud, which may take some time to be provided on the on-premise cloud. So these are some of the characteristics, the ones in Malta in the main data center and the backup data center, and the ones in the cloud for even GDPR reasons are not all over the place, but are localized in 2 particular data centers. Other characteristics, it's based on subscription, no longer perpetual licenses, it's pay-per-use. So we're paying for the usage that we make of the cloud. If we don't use the services, then we don't pay. And that's, of course, very important. Our users, our client base, have an important decision to make. Is it on-premise or is it off-premise? The objective is to install and host the government information systems on cloud, whether it's on-premise or off-premise, we have devised criteria to help the clients to decide where they will be housed. The roles. MITA will retain ownership of the hybrid cloud, but of course, MITA is supported by its suppliers, particularly Microsoft in this case, and also providing access to the clients and to the MITA project teams that are implementing the various information systems. Another important perspective, the governance and the take-up. Of course, going to the cloud may have been a little bit of a shock when we came by, because government information systems and its data may now no longer be within our closed environment, but they are on the cloud. So there needed to be an onboarding process, not only for the new information systems to be on the cloud, but also to go through a migration process so that the systems that are currently housed in our previous current infrastructure will be migrated either through a lift and shift or through re-engineering to the hybrid cloud. That's important. Another important perspective is, of course, that the respective clients are monitoring the usage. So not just throwing technology and storage and computing capacity to the solutions, but if, let's say, for example, a particular solution does not require the facilities during a period of time of the day or week, then of course those can be switched off and or reduced, and of course do not pay for them. So what were the main drivers, our main drivers for going for the hybrid cloud? First of all, strategic drivers. Of course, corporate identity. Malta, being small, has been going through a consolidation process for a number of years. This hybrid cloud will continue to provide a consolidation approach. Malta is small, so economies of scale are extremely important. So rather than each ministry and department going their own way, whether it's in the cloud or on their data center, instead they are using the corporate hybrid cloud as implemented by MITA, so one government. Of course, the concept of horizontalization, which is critical for once only and critical for sharing of data between government and also standardization and interoperability. In fact, whenever we or clients issue tenders for procurement of solutions, within the tender, there are specifications of the hybrid cloud so that the suppliers that are quoting would know where they would have to host their system if selected and what they would need to interface to. Another important perspective is modernization. We are currently working on 3 major systems: taxation systems, social policy systems, and justice systems. And they are being modernized. Their technology is being modernized so that they can be cloud native and they can benefit from the benefits that the cloud will bring. Another important perspective, self-service. As I mentioned before, MITA no longer provides all the services. Those services which are vertical in nature, we are delegating to the ministries and Office of CIOs. And self-service is very much in line with this strategic approach, and also to improve in terms of turnaround time. And of course, disaster recovery and business continuity. So now, the information systems of government and the data are not only housed in Malta, in different data centers, but also in the cloud, on the Azure cloud. Business drivers, reducing idle time. Of course, to be able to get the service from the cloud is much easier, much faster than to get it from having to procure the resources, facilities, implement them, configure, etc. The time to market, as I mentioned, GDPR. That's why, particularly in particular areas within EU. The demand and supply. So capacity management has always been a challenge. Okay, you either oversupply with either resources being there, or else you have to, of course, take time to provide the supply. No longer with the cloud. And of course, as I mentioned, cost optimization. Just concluding a few slides. Technical drivers, improved performance, easier to upscale. You know them, security, data, privacy. So this is where we were, where we're going to, okay, into the hybrid cloud, okay? The last part I wish to talk about briefly is, of course, about security. We're also implementing various tools in terms of security. You cannot go to the cloud, as we've heard this morning, without implementing the proper security tools. Otherwise, it will be much more difficult to convince the clients to go to the cloud, both in terms of solutions and tools, as well as in terms of awareness. And a major awareness program is currently happening in Malta, okay, in terms of cybersecurity. I wish to conclude with this, basically, MITA, through the partnership that is having on one side with its suppliers, like Microsoft in this case, and on the other hand, with the public administration, I believe we are really implementing the vision, our vision, of being the digital driver for the government of Malta. Thank you.